Hello. So after I made the last video based on the artblock roulette, I made this little fella, and because I thought she's cute, I decided to make a sculpture out of her. And quite obviously, we had to start, like every good sculpture out of polymer clay starts, with making a base out of aluminium foil. So I made the body and the head, and then I started with covering the body with polymer clay. And I deleted most of the footage where I roll polymer clay through the pasta machine. I hope I got everything out. If not, I'm so sorry, because watching me forcing clay through a pasta machine is maybe quite boring for you. And then I made her two little shoes that in the end are not as little as I thought they would be, because the whole figure turned out a lot bigger than I anticipated. But I do like her, and I do like how big she is. And it sounds again like a "that's what she said" thing. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for it. Yeah, and then I attached the feet or shoes to the body. And then it was time for my new enemy. Oh gosh. I hate ruffles so much now. After doing quite an amount of ruffles and needing, I think, 1 or 2 hours just for her dress, I was done with it. Not really, but I wish I would have been done with the ruffles. But yeah, they are really my new enemy. When it comes to dolls, it has to be the eyelashes, and with sculptures, it definitely have to be ruffles. But anyway, I then made her back just out of a roll of polymer clay where I cut off one, round shape and just put it on her. Then I attached a thing, kind of a handle, a shoulder strap. Now I have it! A shoulder strap onto it. So, because she couldn't stand unassisted, I took a lid from a glass and just smushed some polymer clay into it, put her on the whole thing, and gave it a texture that could be grass or moss, just with a needle and a lot of swirlies. I swirled and swirled and swirled after I ruffled and ruffled and ruffled. Gosh, she was so much fun to make. Ugh! For her environment, maybe, I used another kind of polymer clay from Sculpey that I don't like as much because it doesn't hold details as well. And I thought maybe I could use it for this. It's kind of funny because at the moment I'm making a whole project out of it. So that much too I don't like it. Then I took out the aluminium foil ball, which will become her hat, or already is, doesn't matter. And with the ball end of my sculpting stylus, I made quite large indents where the ice will be, because I decided it would look cuter if the ice will be made more 3D and not just, a dome shape that is painted. but more like an indent with an eyeball, not an eyeball, an pupil. Yes, pupil is it is, and then some epoxy over it to give it more depth. Depth. And with some lip fillers, her face sculpt was done. Quite easy this time. And then I took out the aluminium foil again to give her, yeah, mushroom cap. Because, yeah, she's a mushroom girl. She needs a cap. Of course. Sorry. I covered that with polymer clay too from the outside, and then I cut out some, yeah, triangular shapes and smushed them into the inside to give it these ruffled texture. Again, ruffles. They haunt me today, I think. And after that was attached to her head, it was time for some decorations. First, these little dots that are on mushrooms, the poison ones, the red ones with the white dots. You know which one I mean. In German, they are called Fliegenpilz. Quite a cute name. But anyways, it was time to attach these little dotties, and then it was time for the bows and the flowers. And there was no way I made a lot of tiny bows. I did one giant one, and then I used the mold I had and just shoved the polymer clay in it and slapped it on her head. Same goes for the flowers. And then she was finally done and able to be baked. And yeah, what should I tell you? She wasn't convinced that staying in one piece would be good. So I noticed that right away that she collapsed. I was able to repair her, but I did this off camera with a lot of epoxy. Or, yeah, UV resin it is. Her bow was a bit damaged and her ruffles too, but there was no way that I do the ruffles again. So I repaired the bow as good as I could and then just slapped a lot of gesso onto her. And by a lot, I mean a lot. I think I did 4 or 5 coats of gesso, he said, questioning. I can't remember anymore. And I didn't film all the layers, I just filmed the first one because quite boring, too. Then I mixed all the colors that are in the original drawing, and to be honest, it was a lot of pastel. I mean, you already saw it in the beginning, but when all the colors were gathered on this one figure, it was a lot. And maybe a bit too much for me. So I decided right away I would use some, how is it called? Yes, a wash later. But first it was time to just put all the colors on there. I wasn't completely sure about the wash, but yeah, first just putting on some color to make all the colors be as opaque as possible. And because I refuse to buy expensive colors and I just have cheap ones, it took a lot of coats again. So if you want a faster result, spend more money. Yes, I encourage you to spend money. Ta-da! But honestly, most of the time I think the dollar store or cheap brand colors do fine. You need a bit more coats, and yes, it is quite possible that they will fade with the time, but let's face it, this critter isn't art that will be for the ages. For her pupils, I mixed some epoxy resin. No, not epoxy resin, epoxy clay. That's the right thing. And yeah, I filmed it more or less off camera, so I deleted it, and you have to trust me, I painted it black, and then it was time to use the epoxy resin or UV resin or too much words for me today. Yeah, anyway. Um, I filled the eye sockets, eye holes, whatever, with the resin, hardened it, and then I put the little light reflections into it and covered them again. And with that, her face was done, and I turned to the last details of the paint job, or of the basic paint job. Fun thing to mention, I thought the eyes were quite great, and I showed her to my father, and he told me, or he asked me, why her eyes are closed. If anyone else has the feeling her eyes are closed, please tell me. I would like to know if he was the only one, or is the only one. I still don't really get it. But anyway, I took out a pearlescent medium and slapped it onto her dress. Then I made the wash out of acrylic paint, water, and some dish soap. And after that was on her, the whole pearlescent thing was vanished. So I mixed some pearlescent powders into into the varnish for her, and put that on. For her hat and her dress, I used the glossy one with pearlescent powder in it, and for the rest of her, which is her face and the ground she's standing on, I just used matte varnish. And I think it's quite funny that her ground is more natural and she is so overly pastel, because it shows even more how out of her world she is. I have a story for her in mind, and maybe I will make something like a little kid's book or something out of it. I'm not sure at the moment. When I will come to it, I will do it. So I hope you like her and enjoyed my little mushroom girl, and we will see us next time. Bye.